I remember it like it was yesterday. The font of the crimson sunset casting eerie shadows on the suburban houses as I made my way to my babysitting gig in the quaint neighborhood. Little did I know that this babysitting assignment would forever scar me with a terrifying true horror story. It was a chilly October evening when Mrs. Johnson, a single mother, selected me to look after her 8-year-old son, Tommy. She thanked me for coming on such short notice as she rushed out the door, flashing a worried smile. I reassured her that Tommy would be in safe hands, but I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. As dusk settled, the house became cloaked in an eerie silence. With Tommy tucked into bed, I began to occupy myself by flipping through the channels until I came across an old black and white horror movie. Feeling a chill run down my spine, I used the remote to quickly change the channel. The sound of creaking floorboards from the hallway sent shivers down my spine, but I dismissed it as an old house settling. Returning to the living room, I noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. Panic gripped my heart, but I reasoned that perhaps Tommy's mother had forgotten to close it properly. With a deep breath, I mustered up the courage to shut the door tightly, trying to push away the uneasy feeling that crept over me. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from upstairs, interrupting the silence like a thunderclap. My heart threatened to burst out of my chest as I sprinted up the stairs, my mind consumed by images of masked intruders and unspeakable horrors. My fears were quickly extinguished when I discovered that a photo frame had merely fallen from a shelf. Attempting to regain my composure, I made my way back downstairs, but as I reached the last step, I noticed something peculiar. A child's laughter, light and innocent, reverberated through the empty house. Paralyzed with fear, I stood in the darkened stairwell, desperately trying to quiet my racing thoughts. Just as I convinced myself that it was only my imagination playing tricks on me, the laughter grew louder, more sinister. My gaze fixated on the living room, where shadows danced and morphed in mesmerizing patterns. The pale moonlight filtering through the curtains seemed to illuminate ghostly figures lurking in the corners, their presence unmistakable. Feeling a surge of protectiveness for Tommy, I rushed towards his bedroom. The door creaked open, revealing an empty room. Panic washed over me as I searched every nook and cranny, praying to find Tommy safe and sound. But my frantic efforts were in vain. Tommy had vanished into thin air. Fear consumed me as I raced through the house, calling out Tommy's name in desperation. But my calls went unanswered, lost in the sinister silence that had enveloped the house. In the midst of my panic, a rustling noise emerged from the basement. Summoning the last remnants of resolve, I descended into the darkness. The air grew heavy with a putrid stench, and the distant sound of dripping water reverberated like a ticking clock. The flickering light bulb in the basement cast eerie shadows, making it difficult to distinguish reality from nightmare. As I neared the darkest corner of the basement, a child's whisper invaded my ears. "Help me, please." My heart constricted with a mix of hope and terror as I stumbled towards the source of the voice. There in the dim light, I saw Tommy, bound and gagged, tears streaming down his face. With trembling hands, I untied him, feeling relief wash over me. But as we turned to flee, a distorted figure emerged from the shadows, blocking our only escape route. Its eyes burned with an insatiable hunger, and a bone-chilling laughter filled the room. In a desperate fight for survival, I grabbed Tommy's hand, and together we sprinted towards the stairs. Fear propelled us forward as we raced through the house, our adrenaline-infused bodies fueling our escape. Bursting through the front door, we collapsed onto the lawn, gasping for breath, our hearts pounding in our chests. As the police investigated the house, they found no trace of the mysterious figure that had tormented us that fateful night. The experience forever altered my view of the world, leaving me haunted by the true babysitting horror story that unfolded before my eyes. Sometimes, in the dead of night, when the wind whispers through the trees, I can't help but recall the chilling laughter and sinister presence that forever changed my life. It serves as a constant reminder that true horror can lurk where we least expect it, even in the innocence of a child's bedroom. the night that forever etched a chilling terror in my heart. It was a seemingly ordinary evening when I received an unexpected phone call that would lead me down a path I never could have imagined. My name is James, and at the time I was an 18-year-old boy with an adventurous spirit. I had taken up odd jobs to save up for college, and one of those jobs happened to be babysitting. Little did I know this particular night would change my life in ways I couldn't fathom. The call came from a frantic mother named Sarah. Her voice trembled as she explained that she needed an emergency babysitter for her 3-year-old daughter, Emma. Sarah's usual babysitter had fallen ill, and she couldn't leave her office until late that night. Despite a sense of unease, I agreed to help. I arrived at Sarah's house shortly after, the darkness of the night swallowing the quaint neighborhood. As I stepped out of my car, a cold breeze sent shivers down my spine. It felt like an omen, a forewarning of the horrors that awaited me. Sarah greeted me at the door, her eyes filled with exhaustion. She quickly briefed me on Emma's routine, emphasizing the importance of ensuring her safety throughout the night. I assured her that all would be fine, unaware of the true nightmare that lurked within those 4 walls. Emma seemed like an angelic child, her innocent smile concealing the malevolent force that dwelled within her. As Sarah left, I entertained Emma with games and toys, trying to push the unsettling feeling at the back of my mind. But as the hours ticked by, that feeling grew stronger, like a dark cloud descending upon the house. It was close to midnight when I heard a faint scratching sound emanating from upstairs. Concerned, I climbed the stairs, the creaking wood amplifying the eeriness of the situation. As I reached the 2nd floor, the scratching grew louder, reverberating through the empty hallway. I followed the sound to Emma's room, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was eerily silent as I opened the door, revealing Emma sitting on her bed, her tiny hands covered in blood-red paint. In the corner of the room, I noticed scratch marks etched onto the wall, forming cryptic symbols that made my blood run cold. Fear consumed me as I tried to comprehend the inexplicable events unfolding before my eyes. With each passing moment, the air grew thicker, suffocating me in its malevolence. Something sinister was at play, and I had unwittingly stepped into its trap. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The room plunged into darkness, the only source of light being the faint glow of a full moon seeping through the window blinds. I desperately fumbled for the light switch, but before I could find it, a whisper echoed through the room. "Leave now, while you still can." My heart thundered in my chest as I turned to see Emma sitting on the bed. Her innocent face morphed into an expression of pure malice. The voice that had spoken was not hers. It dripped with a venomous intensity that invoked primal terror within me. Fear compelled me to flee, to listen to the warning that echoed in the darkness. But as I reached for the doorknob, a powerful force yanked me back, pinning me against the wall. The air grew stagnant with an otherworldly presence, the ethereal whispers growing louder, invading my mind with unfathomable horrors. The room transformed before my eyes. The walls cracked and bled shadows. The symbols etched onto them pulsated with an otherworldly energy. Emma, or whatever demonic entity she had become, floated in the air, her eyes void of all humanity. She spoke in a distorted, unearthly voice. "This is my domain now! You will never escape!" As the creature lunged towards me with clawed hands, a surge of courage coursed through my veins. I fought back with every ounce of my being, mustering all my strength to break free. In a desperate struggle, I managed to escape its grip, stumbling out of the room in sheer terror. I raced through the house, the creaking floors following my every step, the malicious whispers ever present in the darkness. As I reached the front door, I glanced back one last time, catching a glimpse of the creature that occupied Emma's body watching me with a twisted grin. I fled into the night, my mind clouded with nightmares, carrying the weight of the true babysitting horror story that would haunt me forever. Emma and the darkness that had consumed her were now free to unleash their horrors upon the world. And as for me, I would forever bear witness to the unseen terrors lurking beneath the ordinary surface of our lives. This, my friends, is my chilling tale, a true account of the night that shattered my innocence and revealed the unspeakable horrors that reside within the shadows. A story that warns us that even the most innocent of faces can harbor unimaginable darkness. I can still feel the chill down my spine every time I think about that fateful night. It was supposed to be just another babysitting gig, but it turned into the most horrifying experience of my life. This is my true babysitting horror story. It all started when Mrs. Anderson, a friendly woman from our neighborhood, approached me and asked if I could babysit her two kids, Emily and Michael. She and her husband were going out for a rare date night and needed someone reliable to look after their children. I agreed, thinking it would be an easy way to make some extra cash. The Andersons lived in a charming old house at the edge of the woods. It was a picturesque setting, with a winding gravel road leading to their front door. The moment I arrived, a feeling of unease washed over me. The house, though beautiful, had an eerie aura about it, as if it held secrets from the past. Mrs. Anderson gave me a rundown of the evening's routine and assured me that her kids were well-behaved and easy to handle. She left, leaving me alone with Emily and Michael. As the evening went on, things seemed normal at first. We played board games, watched cartoons, and I even made them some macaroni and cheese for dinner. However, as the night progressed, strange things started happening. The lights flickered sporadically, and I could hear faint whispers in the distance. I attributed it to an old house settling, but my unease only grew. Around bedtime, I took the kids upstairs to their rooms. Emily's room was brightly colored with stuffed animals and dolls, but Michael's room sent shivers down my spine. It was dimly lit, and the walls were adorned with bizarre drawings. He had sketched disturbing images of shadowy figures and creepy faces. I couldn't help but feel that something was terribly wrong. As I tucked them into bed and read them a bedtime story, I heard faint footsteps echoing in the hallway outside their rooms. I dismissed it as the creaking of an old house and assured the kids that everything was fine. That's when Emily whispered something that sent my heart racing. "The man in the hallway is watching us," she said, her eyes wide with fear. I turned to look, but there was no one there. I tried to comfort her, chalking it up to a child's vivid imagination, but my unease continued to grow. I decided to stay in the hallway between their rooms for a while, just to ease Emily's anxiety. I sat on a chair, listening to the strange sounds that seemed to emanate from the walls. It was as though the house itself was breathing, inhaling and exhaling in an eerie rhythm. Hours passed, and I was starting to doze off when I heard a soft, chilling voice. It came from the darkness at the end of the hallway. "You shouldn't be here," it whispered, sending shivers down my spine. I turned on the hallway light, but there was no one there. I checked Emily and Michael's rooms. They were fast asleep. My heart was racing as I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. I decided to call Mrs. Anderson to update her about the strange occurrences. When she answered, her voice trembled. She told me to get the kids and leave the house immediately, without giving any further explanation. I rushed back to their rooms, but they were gone. The beds were empty, the windows wide open, and a cold wind blew through the rooms. Panic set in as I realized that the kids had vanished into the night. I stumbled down the stairs, calling out their names and searching every room, but there was no sign of them. The house seemed to be alive, its walls shifting and groaning as if mocking my futile search. Desperate and terrified, I fled the house and ran down the gravel road, trying to make sense of the nightmare I had just experienced. Mrs. Anderson arrived home shortly after and called the police. A search was conducted, but Emily and Michael were never found. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that something malevolent dwells in that house. I don't know what happened to those children, but I can't escape the guilt of not being able to protect them. The babysitting job turned into a true nightmare, and I still hear those haunting whispers in my dreams, reminding me of the true babysitting horror story that will haunt me for the rest of my life.